Hey, this is Jake from Greta Van Fleet, and you're listening to ZanZanA.
Hi Jake, thank you for this interview.
Thank you for having me.
So, I tell you something. 3 weeks ago, I was looking for some music because I have a show in Tunisia every Thursday night from 9 p.m. to midnight, who's called ZanZanA, and it's a metal show and hard rock show, And every week, I try to find some new music, to discover for the audience. And I found this band, Greta Van Fleet. Yeah, okay. I put it on YouTube, Oh, it sounds great. So I tried to find it, and I broadcast it. I said, wow.
Well, thank you.
Uh, you are the child of rubber plant?
Yeah. It's very close, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was very surprised today when I saw you on stage because you're so young.
Yeah, I suppose we are. I think we got an early start,
Lucky early start.
Yes, absolutely.
So, how it began?
Well, we kind of grew up in a household, that was very, like artistically influential in every sense. It wasn't always just music. I mean, we grew up around a lot of film and a lot of literature and a lot of music, and our parents had a very large vinyl collection. So I suppose we didn't really listen to too much of what was on the radio. We never, particularly liked it, I guess. It never really did much for us. But, I mean, we were listening to mainly blues a lot of the time when we were young. People like Howlin' Wolf, Muddy Waters, Elmore James, Lightnin' Hopkins, all the Kings, all of that stuff. A lot of folk, Joni Mitchell, Joan Baez, Bob Dylan, even Arlo Guthrie, Woody Guthrie too. Mainly that, and a lot of soul, a lot of R&B, and so a lot of that sort of traditional style music. And it's interesting because we had been playing around with it, and we never really listened to, rock and roll until about high school, until about a bit later in life. And then, we could hear all of what was going on from those roots music, and you could hear how that transitioned and evolved. And I think we all kind of went, oh, yeah. It's like, well, we can kind of take a lot of these early influences and kind of make something with it. And so, three of us being brothers, we all kind of grew up listening to the same thing and sharing a lot of the same experiences. And I think I've played guitar for since I was 3.
Since you were 3?
Yes, yeah, because our father played guitar and harmonica. He's a chemist though, and so I kind of wanted to play like he did. So I was playing really early on. And Josh was always singing, in the car and around, and we'd always sing together. So it was natural, that he would become the singer at some point. Just organically happened. And so Sam would come home from school, and then around middle school, and we'd start pulling him into the garage. And like, come on, Sam, come play bass for us, because we needed a bass player. We had a drummer, and so he started coming and playing bass, and then started playing keys, and when we needed keys, and then shortly after that, we brought in Danny, who's the drummer now, who's Sam's age, and we started playing around in the local bars and things like that, and around some of the other states in the area, and I think eventually, kind of were able to break through after 6 years. That one person knew someone else, and they knew someone else. And in that sense, kind of a domino effect where a team was, quickly assorted around us as we selected who we wanted to work with, and yeah, so that's kind of how it's began and where it's kind of gone, I suppose.
How old are you?
Josh and I are we're twins, so we're about 22. And Sam and Danny are both 19 now.
Okay. It's Sam the singer, I guess. Is it his natural voice?
Josh the singer?
Josh, is it his natural voice, or he tried he tried to change it.
No, that's just how he sings. It's very interesting because early on when we were playing in the garage and stuff, we didn't have very good monitors, we didn't have very good PAs. So, he went from singing one way to having a guitar amp blasting and drums blasting and bass blasting to at one point just singing, that, and then it kind of cut through all of it. And we all stopped playing and we all looked around at each other like, that's how you have to sing right there. And so it just kind of happened one day, and that's how he's sung since, I guess. Yeah.
I remember when I broadcast, I heard your song. I said, "Wow, it remembers me Robert Plant, and Led Zeppelin. It's the mood, and how is how is it that a young band, you're 22, has gone in this revival 70s sound?"
Yeah, I think it has a large part to do with what we grew up listening to, and sort of, I think we've got that on our side, that we were, young and ignorant enough not to be able to go for one sound or another, but just to sort of sound whatever organically we were going to sound like from four different people put together to sound, whatever that sounds like, yeah, I think that a lot of what was, being done during a lot of the 60s and the 70s for rock and roll and for music, and because of it, that cultural explosion and so many people with so many different ideas and so many different interpretations of how music could be made. I think a lot of that experimentation has drifted, and I think since then rock and roll kind of has had its, its heroes and my heroes since then, but it's never been such a large movement as it once was, and who knows, maybe again. But I think that now, going through with our generation and a lot of the youth, I think they're given the resources to be able to listen back and take notice and be influenced by a lot of what was going on during that time period of the 60s and 70s. So I think that why we sound the way we do is because of what we grew up on, and I think that a lot of us, and not just Greta Van Fleet, but a lot of other bands, are sort of in a sense, paving a new way of viewing the genre and sort of taking it where it once left off and evolving it into the future. So,
yeah. And in fact, you're not alone now. It's amazing because there's some bands, from Sweden, from England, that are going back to these roots. So you're 22.
Yeah.
Your brother is 19. And how the importance of your parents is very important, because they left you as young to go on the road and make music and choose this kind of life.
Yeah, I think that we got very lucky with the parents that we have. It was, in a lot of senses, growing up in a very small town like we did, you become a lawyer or you become a businessman of any sense, or an entrepreneur, or anything like that. But I think that we were all very influenced artistically, in the sense that we knew we wanted to go out into the world and do something to that aspect. And I think our mother's a science teacher, and our father's a chemist, a scientist as well. And I think that they kind of knew that was in sense what we wanted to do, and were open-minded enough people that they had allowed us to just go and kind of do what we wanted to do. And I think that they were supportive, not only just okay with it, but being very supportive, leaving home very young and going out and exploring the world. And I think that they're happy for us and proud of us, and we're grateful for it.
When you learned playing music and you began, did you make courses with teachers for the technique, or you learned everything by yourself?
Yes, we all learned everything on our own. I think autodidactically, just kind of picking things up here or there, And yeah, I mean, I think the way that I learned how to play guitar was just playing with a bunch of other musicians. And I mean, like 7 years old or something. It was when my dad would have friends over, and they'd play. And he has a blues band now, but they'd come over and play guitar, and I'd always ask to sit in, and they were gracious enough to have me come in and sit down and put my head down really low so they couldn't be heard, but I could hear it. And it was like, just watching their fingers and trying to emulate that. And once I figured out, certain ways of doing things and structures and these chords and stuff like that, I was able to put on the records that we were listening to when we were growing up, and just knew how to kind of replicate the sounds and replicate what they were doing with the guitar. And so it was kind of a tug of war between that, watching and learning and trying to emulate. And so I think that was kind of similar for all the other musicians in the band. Sam taught himself in that way as well, where he listened to a lot of the records and picked it up, and same with Danny and Josh. Yeah.
That's the very best way to learn, by using your ears, But because now lots of musicians by your age go to internet, find all the chords and all the notes and replicate.
Right. That's very it's a visual form of things, and it's interesting because everybody learns so differently. But being that they're these instruments that we play, it's almost more practical to go out learning them from an audible sense, where you're learning by listening, and that's interesting. But yeah.
Nobody told you. Nobody made the. I'm sure you're amazed by this question, but I'm sure a lot of people are going to say, "Oh, you're three brothers in a band, like I don't know, Hanson Brothers or things like that."
Yeah, that's interesting because we've never gotten that, because I don't think that we sound like a lot of the other bands that have those, the family in it. It's like, well, the Kings of Leon as well. Those are three brothers, and the Kinks, they were the Davey brothers, and then there's so many. Yeah. There's just so many I can't even think about it right now. But yeah, it surprised me how much of a common thing that is now. About 30 Seconds to Mars, the Letos. Yeah, but there's quite a few, and I never had realized that until getting into this world. Yeah. Oasis. Yes. Yeah. Gallagher's. Yeah. The greatest set of brothers. We just love each other so much.
And being brothers, is it easy to make evolution of music? Because being brothers, sometimes it's not easy. It's not like a friend or someone you don't know to evolve.
Yeah, I suppose in two senses that it can be making music or any form of art easier, in the same sense that the three of us grew up in the same house, sharing the same influences, sharing the same life experiences. So communication, when it comes to to artistically communicating, musically communicating, it's very easy to just know what the other guy's thinking, or what the other guy's thinking or feeling, or in a direction. And it helps visual communication. On stage, it helps. I mean, it seems that we're always on a very similar page. So in that sense, it's helpful. But on the other hand, it can be where you run into something artistic differences, and someone has an opinion and the other one has a different opinion. Well, then then we might start beating each other up.
Yeah. Thanks to your parents.
Yes, right. I think we've gotten better at that, less aggressive in that way. But I think overall, it's been more beneficial, being brothers and communicating. And even Daniel's that very same way. We knew him very young. But yeah, it's good that it doesn't come to a physical altercation as often anymore. But it's not the Oasis. It's not the situation.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Tell me, being young wasn't something very easy for every young band to sign a contract. and to be noticed by a record company. You are very lucky. How did it happen?
In that sense, it's very interesting how that happened. I kind of have to start at the beginning a little bit, but we were looking around for some place to record, and very early on, and we'd gone through some studios, and we found one out of Detroit through a producer who had done some of Kid Rock stuff and some of Bob Seger's stuff, and very Michigan-oriented producer, and who we knew could help us translate what we wanted to translate musically. And so it's a studio called Rust Belt Studios, but we were in there for about a year and a half or so, two and a half years maybe, and we had kind of recorded just a ton of songs that we'd written years before, and that we were writing in the time, and we wanted to be able to have this material to move forward in the musical world, and in that realm. We wanted someone who could manage us, and in the sense we had a manager at the time. His name is Michael Barbie. He's a brilliant manager, but it was kind of the connection that we had gone to certain managers. We found a manager who had a connection with the booking agency, William Morris, and that connection with Jason Flom at Lava Republic, and that connection with someone who had managed the Trans-Siberian Orchestra for a very long time and had many contacts, and it was someone almost like family to us, a very close sort of personality, and so it was kind of that the domino effect in that sense. It's like who knew who, and it got to the right ear, especially to someone like Jason Flom, who is a very Autodidactic, what's it, the original record label head of I think it was Warner Brothers, or another one, kind of taught Jason Flom a lot of this stuff. So regardless, it was kind of like in his mind, he lets us have entirely 100% artistic creative control of all the music and everything, and he may say, oh, what about this and this? We can try that out, but he lets us have the final say, so we got lucky in that sense as well. But we were going to go showcase for Jason at Love Republic, and he called our manager Aaron, and he said, no need to come down, I'm just going to sign them, So we signed right then, and we had our entertainment lawyer, which was in place first, review a lot of these contracts, and you kind of move forward from there. But yeah, I think the persistence of what we were doing and the amount of time we had spent doing it kind of lent the music to get to the right person to hear it, and at this age and at this point in our lives and where we're at musically, so it kind of worked out. Symmetry.
Yeah. Did you make a contract with your parents about studies? Because I think they are scientists,
Yeah.
Teacher, chemist, and they told. Did they tell you to you three? Okay, guys, you can go. You can make your music now. Enjoy your life, but one day you have to continue a degree or things like that.
Yeah, that was another thing. I mean, I think that they, in that sense, allowed us to have our own perspective on, and like involving ourselves scholastically at any point in the future. It'd be like, I think that on our own terms, a lot, for the most part, the four of us, I think at some point do want to kind of go back to, get some, some of these core structures in college classes and stuff like that. When the time's right, perhaps. But I think that's a long way down the road. But I think that's another part of life that we're gonna be missing. Is that that a lot of my friends are graduating around this time and in the next year, and here and here I am, flying around the world. So it's a bit of a different perspective. And so I think at some point I'd like to go back and maybe get a degree, just for fun, just to learn.
Thank you very much, and good luck.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
ZanZanA, l'émission métal.